Hi there. My name is Dr. Graham McCulloch. I'm originally from Ireland, but I've been working in Botswana for the last 30 years. And professionally, I'm an ecologist by training. Did my PhD research here in Botswana. But since then, I've been doing a lot of work in the environmental and conservation consultancy and also management, protected area management disciplines. But recently I became a founder and director of a new innovative business based here in Maun on the edge of the Okavango Delta called the Okavango Craft Brewery. And really it wasn't by chance. It's connected to the conservation work that we carry out and conduct through an NGO that my partner and I have been working on for running since the last 10 years. And that organization focuses on addressing human-wildlife conflict in and around the Okavango Delta, specifically looking at ways to alleviate conflict and promote coexistence between people and elephants that coexist around the edges of the Okavango Delta. So the brewery came about as a way that we decided that in order to create market incentives for people to change practices and behavior towards more coexistence, to make it easier for them to coexist, there needed to be some incentives, and that can come via a number of different routes. But we wanted to really connect farmers who are subsistence farmers who are living with the largest elephant population in the world, and who rely on growing crops to feed their families. We wanted to connect those farmers with a market that pays them a good price for their surplus produce, because they are making an effort to coexist with elephants. So this is really the Okavango Craft Brewery was a brainchild out of that concept. And fast forward 5 years, it took us a number of years to get our team together. We are a team of like-minded people. Loki Osborne, who is our main partner, Heine Dutoy, who is a food tech scientist, Francine Sheldon, who is a citizen of Botswana and also experienced in livelihood improvements in rural areas around Botswana. And so we generated enough investment to start the business. Literally, we began in 2019, just before COVID. So we are a COVID business, one might say. But we are now in our third year of production and business, and it's been a great success. And we are now at a stage where we are scaling the business to basically benefit more farmers. So the Okavango Craft Brewery, like I said, was born out of the idea that it links small-scale subsistence farmers who are making a lot of effort to coexist with elephants in growing crops for food security and to sustain their families. But also, they have an opportunity with organic produce that they grow. Most of it is comprised of millet and sorghum, the grain that they use to feed themselves. That is a produce that they grow that has potential to enter a market into a food and beverage manufacturing industry, which is really only just growing here in Botswana. So we saw an opportunity with the farmers that we work with to help them coexist with elephants, to turn surplus produce that they harvest into a value-added product that rewards them through premium prices for that surplus produce, to incentivize them to continue their pro-coexistence practices and behavior. So really the environmental, the green economy aspect of the brewery really starts at the beginning of the supply chain with the farmers, training and supporting the farmers to conduct conservation agriculture, really looking after the soil, protecting areas that are not too big and unmanageable, but intensifying agriculture on those plots, looking after the soil, like I say, which basically means cover crops, crop rotation with legumes, but it ultimately means higher yields per hectare, and that then translates into better food security, higher yields, and a surplus at the end of the day. And so, as well as that, we assist the farmers to properly protect their fields from elephants. They live with tens of thousands of elephants in the same landscape. So using different mitigation measures to protect the fields, passive methods, to reduce the need for negative confrontations that sometimes result in injury and or death, in both cases for elephants and for people. So and then the third one is really the farmers understanding and recognizing the need for corridors to allow elephants to move between critical resource use areas using these critical movement pathways that form corridors in between villages and field areas, and their acceptance that in order to reduce conflict, allowing elephants to move along these corridors without blocking their pathway goes a long way towards the long-term solutions and addressing the underlying drivers of the conflict. So doing all of these things, farmers really engage and participate and actually sign conservation agreements to say that they will practice conservation agriculture, they'll protect their fields, they'll respect corridors, and as a result, the brewery pays twice the normal market price for their millet, and the brewery turns that millet into malt and then into craft beer, and that craft beer is then sold back into the tourism industry to the many visitors that come here to see the same elephants in our pristine Garden of Eden, which is the Okavango Delta. Yeah, so it sounds like a great concept, and we very, very quickly realized that if we wanted to connect farmers to a market, there is no such thing here in northwestern Botswana. A food and beverage manufacturing industry. There's virtually nothing in that sector here. So we realized that we needed to actually start something ourselves, and that's why we got the group together to create the Okavango Craft Brewery. And we wanted to keep the supply chain short. We wanted the products to be sourced from local farmers, and for it to be manufactured, the products, the craft beer, to be manufactured here in the area, the Okavango Delta area. So one of the challenges then was to equip and set up a brewery in Maun, which is the first of its kind in this part of the country, in northern Botswana. So it was a big challenge, obviously, getting the right equipment up here. But also even more challenging was was actually establishing a supply chain, because the farmers that we are buying from are small-scale subsistence farmers, and they have got no chance. They've got no transport. They've got no effective, efficient storage facilities to store their grain before it's collected to take to market. So all of this we had to establish from the beginning and really build a supply chain from the very beginning all the way through down to our storage and adding value here at the brewery in Maun. So that's a massive challenge, and it's still ongoing. And now we are at the stage where we have many more farmers who want to hop on board and to be connected to the same market. So we would like to scale, but one of the big challenges now is not that there's a lack of farmers that want to sell and that want to practice elephant-aware farming to coexist with elephants, but that there is a lack of infrastructure in the supply chain in order to key into this market. So we don't just think about our manufacturing equipment and how to scale production here. We've got to think of actually how can we facilitate improvements in that supply chain infrastructure in order for more farmers to link to that market. Obviously, I mentioned that we are a COVID business. We started literally our first brew was brewed in February and March 2020, and the rest is history, as they say. So it took us 2 years to actually get to the point where we could actually open and sell our craft beer. So yeah, that was a major challenge for us as a startup business. And then now we are scaling. Now our challenge is now getting out there and distributing the product. There's big support for the brand in this country, and a big desire for it to be present in many other places around the country, which we would like to do. But now we need to start looking at our supply chain and really focusing on the challenges, getting it into other parts of the country, and then soon after we would love to then export it. Yeah, Botswana is very much aligned with the green economy in terms of which is really underpinned by the policies and strategies, the relevant policies and strategies that are focused on driving a sustainable economy, sustainable development through green economics. And Vision 2036 really encapsulates that. The Vision 26, Botswana's Vision 26 really outlines all of those sustainable development goals and the relevant policies and strategies. And historically, Botswana has really led, I would say, the way in terms of its conservation efforts and success stories around, its conservation of its key ecosystems and the wildlife therein. Over 40% of the country is under protected area. It's lucky in that respect, but that's a result of some real foresight in the leadership, and that then translates into a burgeoning tourism industry, which even in itself has pro-green economy strategies like ecotourism certificates, ecotourism standards, green standards that really try and incentivize operators in the tourism industry to be more sustainable, to be more green focused. and as a result, get a leg, a sort of a competitive advantage, if you like. And so that has really is a good example of how Botswana is really pushing a green economy through its sustainable development goals. I would say, a lot of it is dependent on the public sector, and the Botswana government is doing as much as it can in this sector, but there's still a gap in terms of how enterprise and private sector investment can really push the envelope there in terms of green economies. And we're seeing it develop in certain areas like solar energy, for example. There's some exciting solar energy projects popping up around the country, for local scale energy supply. But really, across the different sectors, we are a little bit behind other countries in terms of the amount of investment going into specific green economy activities, and the industry then benefiting from that. So I see a big potential there that needs and is attractive for investment in the near future. So and this is where the Okavango Craft Brewery really contributes. I think what we want to achieve, what we are achieving, is that we are really establishing an industry here in northwestern Botswana, in around the Okavango Delta, that our goal is to diversify a wildlife-based economy, which is predominantly is based on tourism, wildlife-based tourism. But we see another potential in incorporating this wildlife-based economy into other sectors. In our case, the food and beverage manufacturing industry. So really, instead of agriculture and the agricultural value chains, which are really, there's a big need to develop and promote further in this country as well as neighboring countries. There's, instead of that being opposed to conservation policies and conservation goals, why not merge them? And outside of protected areas, how can we generate an economy that benefits not just those employed by the tourism industry, but also the large percentage of people who are still subsistence farmers? And so by generating a value addition in terms of what the farmers are doing to coexist with wildlife, and monetizing that through the manufacturing of value-added products that are sold back to the tourism industry, with the story that generates the additional value, that really is trying to merge the different sectors under the banner of sustainable development, whereby the agricultural value chain is benefiting also from a wildlife economy through the production of these products that are benefiting farmers who are making an effort to coexist with wildlife. So it's this is really what this is our overall objective, and we believe that we've got proof of concept so far, and we're really excited about scaling this product and other products. We're diversifying into food products as well, local food products going to feed the people of Botswana and neighboring countries. So it's an exciting space to be in, and we're really looking forward to developing it further in the near future.